So it's time to expand the Trump-Harris debate episode. The debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump is over. So how did it go? Did you fill in the scorecard? Let's compare and discuss whether the debate was in fact good for democracy.
I'm not going to answer the question.
Why would you answer that
because
question?
the question is
Justice, radical left.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe?
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. I'm speaking. If you don't mind letting me finish, we can then have a conversation, okay?
Please.
Okay.
But we're not afraid of weird people. We're a little bit creeped out, but we're not afraid.
We did it. We did it, Joe. You're going to be the next president of the United States.
The Sound of Politics with Professor Stephen Coleman. Election Special.
Well, the debate has just happened and I was there with my scorecard in front of my television set to rate the debate in terms of its value to voters. I was less interested in who scored a knockout blow or who entered the debate having devised the most ingenious tactics. My purpose was to answer four key questions about the democratic quality of the debate. Question one, how much do each of the debaters focus on clearly stated, well-explained policies? Well, the first thing to note here is that the two moderators did a very good job in raising substantial policy questions. There were 9 in all: the domestic economy, the imposition of international tariffs, women's reproductive rights, immigration and border security, fracking, the attempted coup after the last election and the question of the peaceful transfer of power after this one, the Israel-Hamas conflict, the Russia-Ukraine conflict, the US military withdrawal from Afghanistan, and healthcare. Well, that's a rich policy agenda, and US voters could feel pretty satisfied that they were being invited to hear the differences between the two main presidential candidates on all of these important themes. My observation was that Kamala Harris outlined clear policy positions on all of them, although she failed to explain how and why her position on fracking had changed over the years. She was being politically defensive in that respect. Politicians don't like to admit that they've changed their minds, particularly for tactical reasons. But it would have been clear to voters that she was a candidate with clear policies that could either be accepted or rejected. Now, Trump is clearly not a man for policy detail. There were two problems with his performance. He often spoke about quite different issues than the ones he was being asked about by the moderators. And on several occasions, instead of offering policy details with which people could agree or disagree, he referred to details that manifestly were not true, such as that immigrants were increasing levels of violent crime in the United States, when it appears that violent crime is falling according to all of the official figures, and that immigrants were bizarrely eating people's pet dogs, for which there is no evidence whatsoever. Trump did offer some policy substance in relation to the questions about tariffs and the US withdrawal from Afghanistan. But in general, any open-minded voter wanting to know what they would be getting if they voted for Trump would not have learned very much. So question 2, how much do each of the debaters make ad hominem remarks against the other debater? And the simple answer is that both did. It was an irritable debate. In fact, were it not for the long-term degeneration of US political discourse, which has resulted in many people expecting it to be this awful, the level of ad hominem commentary was really troubling. Commentators have suggested that Harris was tactically trying to provoke Trump, knowing that it would bring out his least appealing characteristics. Well, it certainly did. Trump thrives on ad hominem. He seems to think that that's what debating entails. I would like to think that we'll look back on his performance in years to come and wonder how this could ever have been tolerated in a mature democracy. So the third scorecard question, how much do each of the debaters make misogynistic or racist comments? Well, I heard no such comments from Kamala Harris. Trump was certainly offensive towards Harris, but I saw no evidence of that taking a particular misogynistic form. His assumption that men should be able to legislate over women's bodies certainly betrayed a troubling insensitivity around gender. But it was hard to listen to Trump with his repeated returns to worrying preoccupation about immigrants who were generally described in offensive ways, without hearing this attitude and language as being racist. Put it this way, if Trump is not a racist, he has failed miserably in distinguishing his speech from that of those who are. So my fourth scorecard question, how much do each of the debaters make dubious or unsubstantiated claims? Well, there were numerous fact-checking sites available after the debate concluded, some of them doing a really good job. Both candidates made claims that could be regarded as dubious. But according to the most reliable non-partisan fact-checkers, the catalogue of Trump unsubstantiated claims amounted to the vast majority of what he said. So, was this debate good for democracy? Well, the questions asked were helpful, and the moderators appeared to be scrupulously fair. American voters would have learned much more about Harris's policies than they had known before watching the debate. But the debate was weakened by the presence of an opponent, Donald Trump, who was engaged in a quite different notion of what it means to debate policies and ideas. Most voters had probably made up their minds before the debate. But undecided voters, and these are going to be crucial in the US election, would have seen two starkly different candidates for the presidency. Different styles, different norms, different languages. In the context of a democracy that seems to have lost its ability to reflect respectfully, the debate could, I suppose, have been worse. But in terms of what democracy deserves, it failed the test.